But Mr. Hiranandani, if I could ask you, the constitutional amendment bill is through your sector, and you as a leading representative of that sector, what would you have to say about this process, and how historic or not do you think this development is?
I think it's a fantastic and historic moment for India. I think it proves a point that in spite of all the differences, we will be able to come to a consensus on a very, very important reform process, which has been pending for a long period of time. So I think great success, great turning point. I think if it is properly managed, if it is properly managed, there's a possibility of pushing GDP growth by at least 1% in a period of a year, year and a half, if it is properly managed. So I think there are advantages of getting the GST off the ground, and I think the international markets will also see us with a different light. That in spite of all the problems that we had in the last 1.5 years to get anything approved, we have finally got it done. So I think kudos to the government that they've really been able to put in place. Of course, as you said, real estate industry is still floundering, and RERA is expected to start coming and being implemented first in Maharashtra and then in the rest of the country. So I think we will have to see the effect of that, because lack of liquidity will be one problem which RERA will cause. But I think it's very good for the industry in the long run, because it brings about transparency to the end consumer. So I think another reform process is putting into place. But before it really has the positive effect, we're going to see some problems in implementation, as has been discussed just now.
A good point there, Mr. Hiranandani, and I want to contextualize what you are telling our viewers through a small example, if I am permitted to use that. Just yesterday, right outside our Delhi studio, there was a bit of a construction that was going on due to some monsoon water overflow. And the contractor there, obviously a small contractor, because I don't think this works contract must have been in the high 6 digits, small contract. And he asked me that, आप लोग GST की इतनी बात कर रहे हो, हमारे सेक्टर का क्या होगा? So I said, what sector are you talking about? So he said, real estate sector तो बैठ गया है जी, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है पिछले दो साल से इस सरकार में, और पैसे भी नहीं आ रहे हैं, काम नहीं मिल रहा है, कुछ समझ नहीं हो रहा है. GST से कुछ फायदा होगा क्या? So I obviously did not have too much to tell him, but if I were to pose that very question on his behalf to you, what would you say? Because we move around cities in Delhi and Bombay, and I'm not talking about the flooding even in Bangalore. I'm talking about the shells that you see of half constructed, semi constructed property, where people have put in money, where EMIs are being paid, they don't have a roof over their head. And for a country that on one hand is saying that we are bringing in a world-class law, to leave out real estate in the shape and manner that it is, I think is an absolute crying shame. Is this going to be fixed? Will that works contractor actually see some benefits and some calm coming his way in the near future?
No, I don't think GST has any intent to do anything for the real estate in a positive way. In fact, what we are seeing is that local taxes have been increased at all levels. Multiplicity of taxes has come. Labor cess is there, VAT is there, service tax, all those may be subsumed. But the problem is that I don't think rationalization of taxation across the board, both at the local government level, state government level, and the central, is going to be rationalized by this move. What I expect, however, is to see that the overall GDP growth of the country, which is now taking place, both in terms of infrastructure, led by Mr. Gadkari, led by Mr. Suresh Prabhu and others, who are really putting in a huge amount of paradigm in terms of infrastructure development, and cities like Mr. Fadnavis wanting to bring metro, Cross Harbour Bridge, Navi Mumbai Airport. The secondary effect of demand in these sectors, and also again a spurt in the IT sector, is what I'm seeing, is really going to bring about a secondary increase in demand. However, what you're saying is right. Those which are already stressed because of RERA is going to be stressed even further. So many of the buildings which you have seen under construction are going to get worse before it gets better, for the simple reason that under RERA, all the new funds that will come can be used only for the newer constructions which are being now sold, and cannot be for the old constructions, because you are going to escrow the amount for the new constructions only. So we have a problem of how to get funds for these buildings, and government has not proposed any ideas to sort out that problem.
Mr. Hiranandani, let me give you another example, and this is on record, on camera, and I don't know if we can play it out now, but we will at some point. Around the second year anniversary of this government, we had occasion to speak to the Urban Development Minister, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, and he now has an additional charge, and he retains that charge. And I posed a simple question to him as a commoner, the same point about these empty shells, half-complete shells, and the sadness and the bleakness that it brings to the entire economy, and whether he saw any possibility of some interventionist measure to help this out. Because we have bailed out the farm sector, we have bailed out several sectors, we are bailing out many of our public sector banks, and finding creative solutions of keeping them afloat. We know what is happening with the bad loan situation. His answer was that let industry come forward and suggest something to us, and I'll be willing to consider. Now, he's obviously just one member of the cabinet, but given that we are talking now, do you think that there is a possibility of a solution being presented by industry that is implemented, which can bail out all these stuck projects all across the country and at least provide people a roof over their head for which they have spent their hard-earned money for?
The answer is obviously yes. We have solutions in all measures. If you really sit down across the table, there are lots and lots of solutions. For example, there are lots of issues even under the RERA bill which we suggested, which had not been accepted by the government. For example, government institutions are not giving approvals in the time frame that we have talked about. And we said that under the RERA bill, don't only bring the consumer and the developer into the cognizance, but also bring about a situation which will make a paradigm change for the approval authority, because there has been a lot of delay and corruption at that end. But government in its wisdom decided not to bring in there into the purview. So a regulator may be able to damn the developer and fine him and prosecute him. But if it is being done due to the fault of some government agency, they are not capable of taking any action. So that's the sad part, that we find that piecemeal solutions are coming. And what you're saying is, how do we get a holistic solution? Of course, we have answers. And we can always sit with government, whether it's at the central level with Mr. Venkaiah Naidu or at the state level. So there are solutions to these problems. There is nothing that we cannot solve, because the government has, we as industry and government can certainly solve these problems, because there are real problems on the ground, and there is no way that we will not be able to solve them. In fact, the contrary is true. There is no problem that I think we cannot solve, including the target which the Prime Minister has put of creating affordable houses by 2020. There is no reason why we will not achieve it.
Absolutely, and you sort of hit the nail on the head, that if you were to, if this government were to fulfill the Prime Minister's vision of affordable housing as well as smart cities, well, there are half-constructed cities or small towns or small clusters which could be attacked first and solved. Mr. Hiranandani, thank you so much for your views. Hopefully, we'll come back and discuss the real estate issue on a separate forum and on a separate occasion. For now, thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. Amit, let me wrap it up with you here and go across to listen to the debate for a brief while. I know you also have to go for your next meeting.